So the brain and the nervous system controls all of the function of our body. And if health is 100% function, then if we have 0% function, where does that leave us? It leaves us sick or dead. When we talk about the brain and nervous system controlling everything in the body, what would happen right now if somebody came and just right here in the streets? What would happen? I would drop. I'd be done. Now, is that a belief or a fact? It's a fact. It's a law. It happens 100% of the time. So then when we talk about the nervous system, only the weight of a dime, that's all that's necessary to decrease function of the body 40 to 60%. It's pretty substantial. So we have to make sure we're taking care of the spine and nervous system to make sure we have 100% function. Now there's three very important things that can overall affect how your brain and nervous system is functioning, and we call those stresses in the body. And the first one that we're going to talk about is the stress that most chiropractors work with, and that's called subluxation. So subluxation, just simply put, is when a bone, section, or curve of your spine actually shifts away from normal alignment, and that shifts cause pressure or inflammation in that area and decreases functions out those nerves. Okay, so that's again where most chiropractors focus. Now when we talk about the spine, we want to know what normal looks like, so that way we know what abnormal looks like. So from the front, we want to be straight up and down. Okay, no deviations, but everybody's heard the term scoliosis before. Well, a subluxation is just a smaller degree of scoliosis. And over time, if we neglect it, it can then also turn into scoliosis. Then when we're talking about the spine from the side, we have to have three very distinct curves. The one in the neck is the most important. And neurologists actually call that the arc of life. The reason that is because it's the bridge between the brain to the body. So if we have any damage there, it's acting like a dam in the river, decreasing function down to the rest of the body. So again, we know normal, we know abnormal, and what happens is due to different stresses in our lives, some things that can happen suddenly, like a slip or fall where, heaven forbid you get in a car accident, or things that happen over a period of time, which is those more repetitive traumas where you might have that slouched posture or you have text neck where you're constantly looking down. That's when those individual bones, sections, or curves will shift. All right, so that's what we're talking about with the first stress in the body. Now the second one is going to be due to toxic stress. So toxic stress is something that's not always talked about, but what happens is if we have damage on the nerves that go to your digestive tract, it can ultimately weaken those nerves, weaken your digestive tract, and then you can be susceptible to things like food allergies or food sensitivities, or even GI infections. So if your main stressor isn't trauma to the spine, it could be something as simple as a food allergy, food sensitivity, or a gut infection. So you have to make sure you're fully analyzing that as well. Now, the example that I always use is something that I typically hear, on a regular basis is, you know what, I went to a chiropractor and it didn't work for me. And sometimes those people will get frustrated because they may have had a friend that had a headache. They went in and they got adjusted and then boom, their headache went away immediately. It was like that miracle adjustment. And then they go in with the same exact headache, they get the same exact adjustment and nothing happens. Or even worse, the symptoms get worse. So what happens is they're like, you know what, chiropractic didn't work for me. So let's rewind that. If trauma is not the top stressor that you have, it could be something related to food allergies. And that's actually how I found out that I had some food sensitivities to brewer's yeast. So when I would drink any alcohol, I had a skull-splitting headache and I couldn't figure out why that was. I could get adjusted until the cows come home, but until I realized that I had that response and I removed it, now I'm headache free and I know not to drink. The third type of stress that we talk about is the stress that most people know about and think about when they hear just the overall term stress. That's emotional stress. So emotional stress will break down your body quicker and faster than any of those other two. The reason that is because it's damaging to the body. What does a stressed person look like? Do they have the healthiest posture in the world? Or are they hunched over and just feeling like they're just getting through the day? And a funny question I ask is, who stresses out more, men or women? It's women. And typically, the people who stress women out the most are the men. So, we've worked with cases before where people have been getting adjusted. They've been trying to take care of their bodies. They've been going the normal medical route, and things like infertility becomes a huge issue and a huge hot topic. And so sometimes I'll just take a look at the person and say, you know what, why is this happening? Why is your body responding the way that it is right now? So we come down, we break it down into stress. If you run the proper analysis and you see what your cortisol is doing, you actually have a link between your female dominant hormone with progesterone, or your fertility hormone, and cortisol. So if you're stressed out of your mind, you're not going to be able to get pregnant. And so even if you're going and you're getting medical treatment, they're trying to give you, medications or suppositories to try to boost that progesterone up, if you don't get your stress under control, it's never going to work for you. So we've had miraculous cases where that's all we address is allowing their body to be able to relax and breathe and take in the environment, and they love it. And then all of a sudden, we'll get an email a couple weeks later or a couple months later and like, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant. What do I do? And it's fantastic. I love it. So we have to make sure we're addressing all three areas of stress to the body to make sure we truly have 100% function.